GPT-4 level reasoning for just $450. Mark Zuckerberg says Meta is to replace its mid-level software engineers with AI in 2025. AI agents could surpass humans as primary app users by 2030, according to Accenture. Anthropic's AI agents take a big leap with direct computer control, and Britain aims to build a homegrown AI rival to OpenAI. Welcome to #Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. We've been talking a lot about the democratization of AI, with NVIDIA selling a desktop supercomputer and smaller models. But how about an AI model with the reasoning power of GPT-4 that you can train for $450? That's right, $450. Researchers at UC Berkeley's Sky Computing Lab have released Sky T1 32B Preview, a reasoning-focused AI model that rivals early previews of OpenAI's GPT-4 at a fraction of the cost. I don't even know if you can call it a fraction. According to the team, training this model costs less than $450, a monumental drop from GPT-4's estimated $78 million price tag. Sky T1's trick is using synthetic training data with carefully optimized hardware. The researchers ran a 19-hour training session on just 8 NVIDIA H100 GPUs, each costing about $25,000, and that price is dropping. That showed that top-tier AI does not have to break the bank. Unlike typical language models, Sky T1 emphasized fact-checking, making it more trustworthy in fields like physics, math, and coding. The Nova Sky team says they're just getting started, with plans to refine these open-source models so more organizations can tap into high-level AI without the massive investment. It's a big step forward towards democratizing advanced AI research and development. In a recent podcast interview, Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, revealed plans to replace his mid-level software engineers, we used to call them programmers, with AI agents by the end of this year, citing the rapid advancements in artificial intelligence. Zuckerberg said that AI can handle tasks traditionally performed by human engineers and even manage entire software projects autonomously. Now, this move follows a broader trend among the tech giants. Over at Salesforce, CEO Mark Benioff recently announced that the company won't be hiring additional software engineers in 2025, thanks to a reported 30% boost in productivity from AI tools. Benioff noted that engineering velocity has reached unprecedented levels, reducing the need for larger dev teams. While this all points to a more efficient future, it raises concerns about job displacement and the shifting role of human engineers. Meta and Salesforce both insist they'll expand their sales and customer-facing teams to help clients benefit from AI. But for tech workers, the question remains, will AI become an assistant, or will it take over your job entirely? A new report from Accenture suggests that AI agents could soon eclipse humans as the main users of both enterprise and consumer apps. Dubbed the binary Big Bang, this shift could happen as early as 2030 for internal corporate systems, and by 2032, the average consumer might spend more time interacting with AI agents than with traditional apps. Karthik Narain, Accenture's CTO and the report's lead author, explained, "When foundation models cracked the natural language barrier, they kick-started a shift in our technology systems, how we design them, use them, and how they operate." According to the report, agentic systems like Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet are already solving half of real-world software issues they encounter, up from a mere 5% last year. If this prediction comes true, it will be nothing short of a total reinvention of what we call the user interface and a massive transfer of work to autonomous agents, something no organization is prepared for in terms of processes, management, or in terms of cybersecurity and risk. Accenture highlights the need to start developing a strong digital core, a robust infrastructure connecting data to analytical platforms, to support these AI agents. The report also advises organizations to start small with task-specific agents, then scale up as they gain confidence. And for more details, we have a link to the Accenture report in the show notes. Now, following on that last story, Anthropic has unveiled a major update to Claude, its large language model, giving AI agents the power to directly interact with a computer. Called Computer Use, this new feature enables Claude to move cursors, click buttons, and type text, automating on-screen tasks that once required human input. DoorDash, Canva, and Asana are among the first to test out this capability, seeing how it can streamline workflows and save time. Anthropic's chief scientist Jared Kaplan told MIT Technology Review that this marks a turning point in agentic AI. Claude will not just auto-complete, he said, but debug, run, and even fix code. Still, Kaplan warned of potential security pitfalls, such as prompt injection, attacks where malicious instructions trick AI into unintended actions. Anthropic is working on safety measures and emphasizing human oversight. With the ability to perform real-world tasks, AI agents are stepping out of the chatbot and into our daily workflows, both an exciting and a challenging development for businesses everywhere. And finally, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced plans to build a formidable national competitor to OpenAI, alongside a sweeping expansion of Britain's computing infrastructure. During a visit to Bristol, Starmer detailed the country's ambitious goal, a 20-fold increase in sovereign computing capacity by 2030. The government also plans to launch an AI research resource and set up AI growth zones, easing planning rules to speed up the construction of data centers. The initiative follows recommendations from tech investor Matt Clifford, who was tasked with creating an AI Opportunities Action Plan. Among the highlights is a plan to develop foundation AI models within the UK and established a national data library to unite public institutions. Industry voices like Zara Barholomi of Salesforce have praised the bold vision for AI, though questions remain about funding and whether the UK can compete with the deep pockets of Silicon Valley. The government's flexible approach to AI regulation could be a differentiator as it positions Britain as a more innovation-friendly environment than the EU. Which brings me as a Canadian to ask, why isn't Canada moving more aggressively? We have the brainpower. In fact, it's likely that generative AI wouldn't have been possible without Canadian universities and research where people like Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of modern AI, and even Ilya Sutskever, one of the founders of OpenAI, did their research on neural networks. And that's just scratching the surface. Canada has AI talent in huge numbers given its population. Canada also has what AI needs, bountiful energy sources, and it's green energy to boot. It's why we have so many data centers for virtual reality, blockchain, and yes, AI. So what are we lacking? Apparently, we don't have the leadership that the UK has from its government. No Canadian company has the deep pockets of Silicon Valley. Only our governments can step up in a case like this. And in a world where, I think Sam Altman said, compute will be the new currency, we could be world leaders, but we somehow choose not to. Which makes the whole kerfuffle about us being the 51st state a debate at another level. If we don't act decisively and soon, we won't be the 51st state. We'll be their next colony. That's our show for today. We welcome your comments, and you can reach me at technewsday.ca. Stay online for Afterword. We have a great piece on Canadian innovation. I think you're going to find it surprising. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a terrific Tuesday. Welcome to Afterword, our weekday interview show. Banks, fairly or unfairly, have an overall reputation as being pretty conservative, and I think that's a general opinion of Canadian banks. Note that I said fairly or unfairly because financial institutions in this country actually have a history of innovation. Canada's financial system is seen as an envy of the world in many cases. It has a great deal of innovation and has never sacrificed stability. Now, unless you work in the industry, you wouldn't know how much of this pioneering happened in the banking industry, or how advanced our system was in providing convenience in Canada, where we could use bank cards in any institution. We could pay for goods and services almost anywhere, making us the envy of the US and other countries. And of course, Canadian banks have been leaders in the use of AI to ensure safe financial transactions. So while we might think of banks as being process innovators, would you think of a bank as leading in the development of patents for new technologies and services? The fact is that our own TD Bank is one of the top patent filers in Canada. Surprised? Me too. I didn't know about this until I was invited to what I'll describe as a celebration of innovation at the bank. And I met, among others, Josh Deeth, the Vice President of Enterprise Innovation and Design, Intellectual Property, and Ideation for TD Bank. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Jim. Pleasure to be here.
Now, before we jump into the area of innovation and patents, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to this role at the bank.
Yeah, so by training, I'm an intellectual property lawyer, and I've been called to the bar since 1999. When I joined TD, I joined in the capacity on the information technology team and contract work we did for vendors. The intellectual property piece at the time was seen as something that people were interested in, and they felt that things were going to move in that direction, but they didn't yet know where things were going to materialize. And so as I continued my career at TD, we started to see that this intellectual property issue, innovation that was occurring, was becoming more and more pronounced. And we started to build and establish that function within TD. And that sort of evolved over decades, literally, to where I am today in the role that you've just set out.
Now, how did that feel when you first got into a lawyer coming into primarily a technology and financial environment? What was your experience like?
It was on the contracting side, obviously, it was very busy. And back in those days, the banks bought their innovation from IBM and Microsoft and others, and that's just how we all functioned. And when I would attend intellectual property forums, particularly on the patent side, and I would explain to people that I'm building a patent function within the bank, other patent lawyers looked at me like stunned. They couldn't believe there's no innovation that's happening in banks. How are you possibly doing this? And they were largely right. 2 decades ago, as I said, banks bought their innovation, and so they were largely right. But there's been significant evolution within the financial services industry. And it's no longer they are looking to compete on rates and to engage customers with off-the-shelf technology. There's a significant drive and desire to truly innovate, and they're putting their resources behind that. They're hiring significant talent. We have almost 1,000 inventors within the TD universe, the significant volume of projects and initiatives that we can get into a little bit later. So I've rode the journey from the dark days of innovation to a period where it was a little bit of innovation theater to now where it is a foundational premise and pillar of the bank, one of its core driving objectives to innovate with purpose.
I trust it's correct that TD is now the top patent filer in Canada?
We are definitely the leading financial institution by a mile.
Yep.
On some metrics, sometimes we are the number one filer across all industries in Canada. Yes, that's true. And
But definitely in financial services for sure.
Oh, definitely in financial services by a significant mile. We're not in the patent game. I think it's an important message to understand. We don't file patents for the sake of filing patents. We're not a pharmaceutical company, which really lives or dies based on their patent technology, but we are in the innovation game. And patents are used to crystallize innovation and to really secure the most maximum return you can get from that innovation investment. And while we're leading in Canada, we're also very strongly positioned in the States. We are amongst the banking house club, the clearinghouse. We're in the top 5 amongst the filers, and that includes JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citi, all those heavyweights. So we're very well positioned, and that was a large driver for why the bank is engaging in innovation and why we're pursuing our patent program. It's not so much to develop this massive patent portfolio. It's because the level of competition has significantly increased, and there's that demand now for innovation.
I will tell you, though, that I'm on at least one council that deals with innovation in Canada, across Canada, with some really interesting people. And the thing that we all talk about behind closed doors is we've got lots of patents in Canada. We're just not using them. And so having an organization that is developing patents around useful and technology in use is a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're quite proud that the vast majority of our filings, again, are coming from projects and initiatives that the bank is building and implementing and launching. And it's not blue sky speculation. Let's file an application. As I said, we're not in the patent game. We're in
Yep.
the innovation game, and patents are just used to help crystallize those assets.
Can you give me some examples of some of the things, the innovations that you've done and some of the patents that you filed that related to those?
We have lots of different buckets of patents across the bank. Probably the ones that are getting the most attention now are going to be in the AI space. We've shifted our direction of filings to really track what the bank is doing. And so now in this year and successive years, about 50% of our filings are going to be AI related. And again, back to that issue that the bank bought an AI company, Layer 6, about 4 or 5 years ago, significant investment in talent to be able to actually really do these innovations. And one thing that we have a significant body of filings around is the explainability and using AI in a way that we can explain why it's making these decisions. Also having patents around ensuring that there's fairness and a lack of bias in the AI systems, because there's so much at stake in the banking environment. If you're starting to leverage AI to make certain decisions, how do you explain that to the regulators, why decisions were made? How can you have transparency with customers as to how things are operating and to management? So that we have a significant body of patent filings around the sort of ethical use of AI and how to ensure that it's being managed appropriately.
These are the core areas of AI. These are the things that keep it from being practically useful in many cases, explainability and being able to make sure that it's fair and equitable in both how it decides and how we use the exercise, what it does for us. This, I'm blown away.
It's one of our core areas of filings. The internal system is called Cortex for explainability, and it won Invention of the Year about 4 years ago, the patent invention of the year, because we felt it was so profound as well.
Wow. And this is a major change in our financial institutions. I have to ask you, what's the secret? Why is it happening now? Why is it happening in the bank?
Why is innovation happening?
Why this level of innovation? What makes the difference that makes that happen?
I think I'm speculating because I'm on the patent end of the process. We're seeing innovation occurring and then we're capturing it and crystallizing it. But it was really the advancement of technology and computing power and so forth, which has become much more readily available as a commodity, cloud computing and so forth. And it's been transformative as far as what the banks can and can't do with technology. And again, it pushed the fintech explosion also produced a whole new level of competition for the banks. Competition is good, right? Competition drives innovation. And I think that's been a significant motivator to really up our game. Analogously, how the taxi industry was transformed after Uber, which is it had to elevate. And I think the fintech competition was good. The desire to get away from rate wars was a significant challenge. And also the expectations of customers, having become so used to the Amazon type of experience, the PayPal type of experience, the banks had to adopt. And they took up the torch. At least TD has taken up the torch to really move in that direction and to meet customers' expectations that are being pushed in so many different directions, and to more convenience, simplicity, confidence. That's happening across so many different platforms, and the banks need to be there. So that's why I believe they've taken up the torch.
Yeah. And to a great degree, this is also an intentional program. And but what I mean by that is the bank is actually encouraging both uh, its employees and its staff to innovate. You've got a program for that. Can you describe some of those for me?
Yeah, it's a skill that you can learn. And we have done a significant amount of work to start to educate individuals as about you can innovate, and we want you to innovate, and we're receptive to that. We have a few channels for that. On the patent side first, it was an education to the community about the work that you're doing in your projects. That's just not your day to day. That is unique to the world. That is patentable innovation. And that was an aha moment for many people. And so that by the bank sort of endorsing and supporting the patent program, what we've been able to do is start to identify and tag work that's happening and say that type of work that's elevated to patentable, that's unique in the world. So we started to create this community, this inventor community. And now that you have this community, you can communicate with this community. You can share best practices. You can educate. They can start to mentor those who are looking to expand and develop their own innovation skill set. We just this year launched or last year, I should say, announced the Elite Inventor Group, which are inventors in the bank who have filed over 100 patents, or they have been named Inventor of the Year. So now this group, part of the quid pro quo, was that they would agree to mentor others. So from the patent program perspective, it wasn't so much that we were, as I said, pushing to file patents, but we pulled and we were able to create this community. And now we can work within this community to continue to elevate and build it. On the other side of the equation, non-patentable innovation, we've worked across the enterprise to establish business directed challenges where the businesses have committed to, here's a problem. Can you help us solve it? And to reach out to the community. And there's a few different ways we've structured it. Some of them, they can reach out to the enterprise and have the enterprise submit results. And what's been surprising in those situations is whatever LOB was the sponsor, the winning ideas did not tend to come from that particular LOB staff or talent pool. It came from other areas in the bank, which shows the diversity of thought and talent. And they're applying new insights and thinking to the challenges that were raised by that business. And then other sorts of other business challenges relate to just a particular line of business. Like TD is fairly famous for constantly addressing customer irritants. And that's a space in our Canadian personal bank that's had that challenge persistent for quite some time amongst the staff to keep finding these issues that we can fix. And that's in relation to we call it the Ideate program. And that's where right now we are using it for challenges, but you can also provide a submission that says, hey, I've seen this issue, or this is something I think that will improve colleagues or customers. And we review them, all of them, to make determinations as to proceed or not proceed and how to address them. And yes, there's been 1/3 of the population over a period of the time the program's been running has participated in that.
I don't want to make this seem easy. Banks are big structures. They're highly regulated. What are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome to keep this culture of innovation alive?
You have to look at it from an entrepreneurial perspective as well. I'm a frustrated entrepreneur, so I've become an intrapreneur. And as you're aware, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I think with both programs, it has been a dogged determination to continue to push, to educate, to support, knowing that this would have merit. It takes time to build traction. It takes time to get engagement. And then once you get engagement, you have to respect the engagement. There has to be if they submit an idea or they provide a response to a challenge, there needs to be an action that results in outcomes that they can feel that they were taken seriously, that there was ideas that were actioned and delivered on, because people have spent a lot of calories trying to address these problems or come up with these issues. Getting the momentum going. And now we're in the stage of continuing to build and nurture the community, which is it's a constant ongoing effort, but it's been very rewarding. We're getting additional recognition, additional rewards, additional challenges, and the community just says more. And we're really pleased with the adoption. And I think we're in a very good feedback cycle right now, but it's persistence. It's persistence.
Yeah. And what's the thing that people most miss? I'm asking you a question. What am I missing? Tell me you'd really like me to see in this program that you're proud of, or you think really it highlights what it is?
I think the thing that is most important, and it's something that I just touched on, but it is the issue of the persistent commitment. So when we started both programs, it was like, okay, maybe like people got it conceptually, but it wasn't as if I could point to something and say, because we were leaders, I couldn't point and say so and so and so, so therefore we should follow. And so it was a leap of faith that the organization took, and it wasn't an immaterial leap of faith. And there was a commitment from senior leadership that the theory of innovation, that this was going to be material, this is something we have to do, resonated. And so through thick and thin, and through times when we were starting up, the numbers weren't great, that we didn't have very good stories, and there wasn't something to point to say, aha, you should continue to support this. And that's in an environment where there's always scarcity of resources, and there's always a challenge as to where do we invest dollars for the return. And so I think the bank, they made a bet and they stuck by it and they persevered. I started the patent program 10 years ago. And it's like a business is an overnight success, right? And that's been a business running for 10 years. So that's true here. Now we have all the accolades, but it was dark days for the first couple of years.
An overnight success after 10 years. The question I want to ask you though is, as you were going through this, when did you know it was going to work? When was the thing that happened that you said, wow, this is now working?
So on the patent side, The aha, and when I got we got the pats on the back, was when in the United States, a bank started to litigate on patents. And that was what we were concerned would happen. That was an epiphany moment when people said, aha, this was the right investment, the right decision. We have our portfolio for defense purposes. That was one of the major reasons why it was built. And it came to bear that was the right decision. And now that people are looking at that landscape through that lens and appreciate we're likely just at the start of this, not the end. And then you factor in AI on top of that and the amount of patents being filed around AI. So that was the aha epiphany on the patent side. And I think on the ideate side of the house, or the non-patent side of the house, the epiphany was really over the past couple of years when we started to change the model and said, okay, we have a community of people. They are engaged. Let's, instead of just having this open suggestion box of ideas, let's work with them and have the businesses present challenges to them that the businesses want to solve, and engage this community in a way that focus their energies, focus their creativity. And we've had incredible results from making that particular pivot. So again, that was another great turning point when we realized, no, we've got something here. This is really special. And it's created this, they're excited because they know they're working on real problems, and that if their solutions get selected, they get implemented. And there's nothing more that an innovator wants to see than that their idea come to life.
And I think it's fair that you have gotten the recognition for this program. It certainly has got awareness, but you must be thinking about where you're going to go from here. Where would you like to go from here?
We're definitely entering a new era on the patent side, and that's because of the explosion of AI and now the multiple explosion of Gen AI. And this is going to be so incredibly transformative. And this is the first technology that I've seen where the banks collectively are not only aggressively innovating, significantly innovating, but they're also filing patents. The smartphone was very hit and miss, definitely was a key driver of the kickstart of innovation. But this, with AI, this is a paradigm shift. And so I think we're entering into a whole new space of both risk and opportunity. And I'm glad to see, again, we harvest. So we see what's happening across the footprint of the bank, and the bank is clearly investing in this, but we know others are too. It's become a very significant race. Where do I see this going? I see us continuing on this journey right now. The stakes are very high now. We have to execute, with excellence here and really position ourselves, because we all can see that there are going to be turbulent times ahead when parties are bumping up against each other with their own innovative solutions. But it might be, I have patents on mine and you don't have patents on yours. And so what does that mean? How does this all shake out? And do we start to see more of this bank litigation that we saw in the United States? On the other side of the house, yeah, they function differently. On the other side of the house, as I said, the past couple of years, we've really seen this different shift in how to engage the enterprise, because that community that we work with on the non-patent side is in the thousands and thousands of individuals. And so to see how we can start to engage them in this new way, and the level of recognition that they're getting when their ideas get implemented, and the engagement from the senior executives, that to me is, I think we have a significant runway to grow that community and to make people really feel like they're part of the TD Invent community at the bank, which is something that was, I think it was recently launched by the bank, and it was a great initiative to bring the innovation groups and the innovation functions together and just align on a vision of innovation. And that community is, we want to start bringing in every part of the bank who's innovating into that community and celebrating them for the value of the contribution that they're delivering.
Yeah. And as I was saying, don't apologize for having the two areas. I think one of the learnings I've taken away from this conversation with you is that these are two different areas and they need different treatment. There's the patentable side of it, but never forgetting the day-to-day innovation that can drive an organization.
That's right.
Now, I always know that people hate to give advice, but just to share what you've learned, you've done this for 10 years. What are some of the learnings that you would have? Canada's prosperity is going to depend on us being able to transform ourselves into a nation of innovation. What could other companies pick up or learn from what you've done?
There's a lot of companies, Canadian companies, that don't even file patents. Patents are one of the easiest and most affordable ways to get rights in different jurisdictions, particularly the United States, and have patent currency to be able to have influence or cross-license and access other technologies. I think there's an underutilization of patents by Canadian companies, which is unfortunate. Especially in the technology space, patents are designed to protect innovative technology, unique technology, and it gives you a whole new level of ability to engage, work with other companies. You now have a new asset class that you can start to leverage in different ways. There was a study done by the US Patent Office that found that companies that received their first couple of US granted patents had 3 times more revenue in 10 years. They had a much higher likelihood of securing financing. They had a greater chance of IPO. You're crystallizing an asset class that's new to the books. And it's something that Canadian companies just don't seem to take advantage of. I don't understand why they don't do that, especially if their vision is to participate in larger markets, particularly the United States.
Yeah. And on the other side, we've talked about two sides in innovation. What are the learnings that you've seen that companies could apply?
Again, I'm more on the receiving side of the innovation, that
Yep.
innovation's occurred and we're capturing it and harvesting it. I guess one insight from from our lens is that, and this is probably a classic Canadian thing, they tend to, well, it's not just classic Canadian, but they underplay their innovation. As in we see this with engineers all the time. The more technically sophisticated they are, the more likely they are to self-censor and say, that's not patentable. And we have to say, no, this is important. This is valuable. We're like, no, this is important stuff. And we see that across the board. There is this sort of failure to really appreciate how material or important what you've done from an innovation standpoint actually is. And I think that has a ripple effect for sure. If you're not, again, explains in some respects why there's not a lot of patent filings that are occurring, because they're not taking the point of view that this is something that is worth the effort or worth the exercise. And I think that's a real shame.
Yeah. And a learning I've taken away from this conversation with you is persistence. This is a long game.
It's a journey. And when you're from a small company perspective, they should have the point of view that you're going to build a monster portfolio is a mistake, but definitely crystallizing your innovations when you can in a timely manner is critical. For the bank, it's a paradigm shift type of thinking. And we are not going back to an era where innovation is not going to be relevant and patents are not going to be relevant. This is a paradigm shift in the banking industry, which I can't see it changing for the foreseeable future. By foreseeable future, hundreds of years.
I agree. And I quote that great Canadian philosopher, Randy Bachman, who said, "You ain't seen nothing yet."
I agree with you. I think things are just getting heated up and it's going to be interesting times.
Yeah. My guest has been Josh Deeth, the Vice President, Enterprise Innovation and Design, Intellectual Property and Ideation for TD Bank. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thanks, Jim. It's my pleasure. Appreciate it.
And that was Afterword. Love to hear your comments. You can reach me at editorial@technewsday.ca. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back with the tech news tomorrow morning.